Yo, what it do? It's your boy P2, coming at you with a Deadlock Toxicity tier list. Let's go. I've been playing this game ever since it came out. I've climbed from the depths of hell in Seeker to, technically Phantom, but now I'm in Oracle. I guess it still is hell. So I at least have some ethos, some credibility to be making this tier list. And without further ado, let's just jump into it. We're going in alphabetical order, starting with Abrams. Now I think this is the perfect placement for Abrams. Let me tell you something, okay? Most Abrams players are dumb as shit. For better or for worse. Either they're the kind of dumb that starts running their mouth, criticizing everyone. Why don't you fight with me? Why don't you go in? Whining all that shit. Or they're the kind of dumb that's just okay with everything. Dude, it's just a game, whatever, man. And they never learn from their mistakes. So that's why I'm putting them in the B tier. 50-50 chance you get either kind of Abrams player. Sometimes you get a smart one. Who knows? Okay, Apollo. Now, personality-wise, Apollo's a bit arrogant, right? He's a bit full of himself. Apollo players, honestly, I expected them to be a lot worse. I mean, they can be insufferable, don't get me wrong, but I've ran into quite a few chill Apollo players. Sometimes Apollo players can be extremely insufferable, like the character they're playing. However, most of the time they're just playing the game, having a good time. The only problem becomes when they think they're good at the game, when, you know, all they really have to do is just press one button to get away. Anyways, moving on. Bebop. Okay, I would have put him in the S tier. Bebop's used to be incredibly toxic. But I think ever since they've nerfed him and reduced Bebop to a shell of his former self, I'm gonna have to put it down a bit. Yeah, less toxic Bebops this time around, I think. Back in the day, you know, these Bebops were throwing slurs around and flaming their teammates left and right. That's just not happening anymore. Next, Billy. Oh, Billy. I'm sorry, but he goes in S tier. A good chunk of my rage quits have been because of Billy. Alright, here's the thing about Billy. Billy, okay, they say Drifter is very feast or famine, right? I think Billy's more feast or famine. Because the problem with Billy is how well a Billy player does, how much he enjoys the game, is entirely dependent on the laning phase. If a Billy does poorly in lane, that's it. The Billy is just gonna play on tilt, right? He's either gonna play on tilt or become a very useless ult bot. You'd rather have the latter, but the problem is either way, the Billy's gonna go like 0-10, and you can't do anything about it. Now, the Billy player does well in lane, then yeah, smooth sailing from there. But another problem I've been noticing is almost every Billy player I've seen still uses heavy melee. And they get all flustered when they get parried. It's like, you're not supposed to heavy melee with this guy. You have to light melee. That's the whole point of his kit. Nobody gets that. But I digress. Billy, S tier. Calico, very much like Apollo, life imitates art, right? Calico is also very cocky, very full of herself, and so are Calico players. However, I don't see many Calicos ever since she's gotten nerfed, so it's hard to say, but generally speaking, my experience with Calico is, although there are some really chill and really cool Calico players, yeah, a lot of the times it's just, you gotta deal with them. And the same can be said about this next one. I think this one is a worse case. Celeste. Oh my god. Celeste players are extremely obnoxious, extremely annoying, and very much like Celeste herself. At least, you know, playing against her. Not like necessarily her personality. But, nah man, something about Celeste players. Like, they know they're playing this brain-dead, annoying as fuck character. And they just gotta rub it in that they think they're so good at the game playing this character. And they're instigators. Okay. Doorman. My boy. The Doorman. You know, for a support-oriented character, a lot of the Doorman mains I've run into have been very, very miserable. Very toxic. They tend to type slurs, they tend to be racist in chat. They tend to flame their teammates or flame the enemy or both. I just gotta put him in A tier. Not quite S tier because, again, there are a few cool doorman players, and they're not quite S tier because, well, S tier is when you genuinely, like, ruin the game experience for everyone, such as in Billy's case, inting and rage quitting. Doorman doesn't quite get there. The most toxic experience that I think a lot of people will attest to is not necessarily having a doorman in their team, but playing against a doorman. As they, the doorman players most likely watched a Joe Chuck video and is trying to do the kidnap thing. Not to say you should never, do the kidnap thing as doorman. I feel like that's a very important thing to incorporate in your doorman gameplay, but you shouldn't make it like your whole thing, because then you'll just piss everyone off, including your teammates, because you're not Joe Chuck. You can't one-trick your way out of, Elo Hell by doing the kidnap build. It's just not going to work. Drifter. Well, I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, due to the nature of his kit, due to how, like, M1-oriented Drifter is, like... Oh, that's another thing. You're going to notice a certain archetype dominate these top tiers. But yeah, Drifter goes here. When I was in the lower ranks, the most insufferable players that I've ever had to put up with, Drifter was amongst one of those. They are crazy. Again, life imitates art. However, the good news is, as I put more people in the S tier, Drifter's going to be, like, very lower end of this. Simply because I think you run into less toxic drifters the higher the ranks you climb. So if you're an emissary or archon, yeah, this guy's a fucking nightmare. But if you're an oracle or phantom, you're not going to see that many toxic drifter players. They're just going to do their own thing, in my opinion, at least from my experience. Dynamo. Dynamo. Dynamo is probably the most 50-50 out of all these heroes, besides another one, which we'll get to. You either run into the smartest, chillest, most helpful Dynamo player in your team, or the one that ends and starts whining at their teammates, oh, why didn't you go in with me? Why'd you leave me to die there? As they're, like, overextended and they have, like, no sense of map awareness or macro. They don't rage quit, they just passively, aggressively int. That's how they deal with tilt. And it just brings down everyone in their team. And that's the problem with Dynamo. Wait, no, what am I doing? Wait, no, hold up. I forgot. Why is there no F tier? Wait. Okay, this is much better. Yes, that's more like it. Graves! The fact of the matter is she's kind of like an M1 hero. And because of that, she's an M1 hero where you don't have to aim. And for some reason that breeds the most toxic motherfuckers in the game. Who think they're hot shit. And it's just, so much ick I have with Graves players. Now, keep in mind, people in this tier list, like, you're bound to run into some chill ones for sure, right? But that's few and far between. That's the whole point of this high tier. The other thing is, the thing that makes this tier is that if things don't go well, they really don't go well. Yeah, so Graves goes here. Grey Talon. Grey Talons are a bit more on the quiet side. However, the ones that type, they really like to rub it in that you're stepping in their traps, or that they hit you with their owl for some reason. Either as part of their rage-baiting mental warfare tactics, or they genuinely think that, they're playing Call of Duty and they just hit you with the most fire airstrike or whatever. A fact of the matter is, Grey Talon is kind of unpleasant. Haze. What are we doing, folks? Haze is probably the queen of toxicity in this game. The M1 carry. The one that makes everyone think they're good at the game. When all they need to do, usually, is press 4. Right? They just farm and press 4. They think they're the protagonist. They will make it known to you, their teammate. With teammates like the Haze player, who needs enemies? Whether they're feeding or carrying the game, it is a miserable experience, usually speaking, of course. This one may be a very spicy take, but I think the most chill mains in the game are the Holliday mains. I don't know why. I've never had a bad experience with a Holliday player, at least not yet. But Holliday mains, they don't type much, and when they do, they're just playing the game. They're just vibing. They're just chilling, which is kind of strange because Holliday is such a, like, conceptually speaking, Holliday is a very sweaty character. She's a very difficult character. I'd argue she's like the second hardest character in the game. Only second is Sinclair. But for some reason, Holliday mains, they're so chill. They literally just do their own thing. When I see a Holliday in my team, I don't worry about whether or not that Holliday will tilt or int or rage quit. I just worry that Holliday is just a shitty hero right now. And so Holliday will fall off in the late game and then we lose. That is what I worry about. Not necessarily the player, just the hero. Oh, infernus. Back in the day, I would have put him here. Infernus, along with Dynamo, used to be like the most 50-50 deal if we're talking toxicity, right? You can either meet the chillest Infernus in your team or the most unpleasant, nasty piece of shit. Nowadays, unfortunately, things have soured a little. We're going to move Infernus up here. Although you still run into chill Infernus players, the fact of the matter is, Infernus, for some reason, I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but they've kind of changed Infernus to be like M1 oriented, which is, fine. I mean, the whole dash furnace thing was stupid in the first place. But for some reason, Infernus players nowadays, they are very, they type a lot of, dare I say, incendiary remarks in chat. They get heated, no pun intended. If not for the history of Infernus being such a 50-50 deal, I would have put him here. Only time will tell. Who knows? Maybe he'll end up here later on. But yeah, Infernus goes here. Ivy. Honestly, I don't have much to say about Ivy players. They genuinely just like the character. Ivy's annoying to play against, sure, but, I don't see a lot of Ivy players thinking they're hot shit for playing her. They don't, they're not insufferable about it. I could put them chill, but I've had some toxic Ivy encounters before. I think Ivy's going to be the first hero to end up in this section right here. And honestly, I could say the same about Kelvin, except Kelvin players have, like, huge egos, generally. They're playing a sleeper OP character. Usually. I don't know how he is right now. I rarely see Kelvins nowadays, but the Kelvins I do see, oh man, they will rub it in. They will rub it in that they think they're better than you in the chat, or after they win and they type GG easy, or they teabag you after every kill. Oh, the Kelvin players they're kind of BM-ish. They're kind of, yeah, they have a tendency to BM. But I'll put them meh simply because as teammates, they're not bad. But it's a 50-50 deal. Not as 50-50 as, say, Dynamo, but I mean, it's honestly kind of leaning towards unpleasant. But not quite enough to put him there. Lady Geist. Ooh, they know what kind of character they're playing, and they don't care. They're just there to win or have fun. And yeah, I don't really have much to say about Geist players. Honestly, there's no instance where like I had a really chill Geist or really toxic Geist. It's just usually somewhere in between. So I figured, yeah, here's good. Oh, you know what? Honestly, Lash players are also very 50-50. You can either meet like the funnest guy on your team who's like carrying every game, like popping off with his ults and stuff and ganking your lanes and doing what Lash is supposed to do, or you're gonna meet some guy who thinks he's LARPing as the Lash by acting like a fucking asshole, flaming their teammates, flaming everyone, thinking they're hot shit as they yeah, I mean, it's a 50-50 deal with Lash as well, I feel like. McGinnis. Ooh, McGinnis. McGinnis players treat this game like a single player game. They treat this like a PvE kind of game. So honestly, I'm gonna put them in alright. They don't really care for better or worse. They're just there to have fun, throw out their turrets that do their dirty work for them, occasionally throw out a wall or a healer, dispenser. I was about to say dispenser. They're honestly just minding their own business, usually. And they enjoy pushing objectives. At least the decent ones. The really bad ones, I can't say much about that. Mina! Now, this is gonna be another hot take. Here's the thing, right? As insufferable as Mina and her kit is, Mina players, they're focused on winning. They're playing this character to win. Either that or they just think she's hot. Or both. They're so focused that they're not even going to bother flaming their teammates. They would, however, they would not hesitate to talk shit to the enemies. So Mina players, if you have her on the enemy team, she is extremely toxic. Honestly, Mina's a broken character. Let's be real here. Mina players are like the Akuma players of Deadlock. You know, the ones that play like the high damage, the ones that can do everything, but are balanced by being squishy. Now, I realized that's a bit of an outdated comparison, considering that Akuma's been nerfed recently, from my understanding. But yeah, generally speaking, nah, Mina players are competitive, for sure. But toxic, I don't know. I can't really say. Honestly, the Minas I've had on my team have been okay. Honestly, Mina players aren't that bad as teammates, just as enemies. Mirage. You know, looking at this roster right now, I think Mirage players are like the quietest motherfuckers in the game. They hardly use comms. They hardly communicate with their teammates in general. I can't really say much about Mirage. Honestly, I'm just gonna put him here. The only time Mirage players uses comms is if they have like a mic. But other than that, I don't think they even know what a chat wheel is. Mo and Krill. Oh, yeah. Oh. I do think they belong here. I can't say much about them, to be honest. I feel like in the low ranks, it's not that common for like Mo and Krill players to be frustrated with people not following up after they ult, because they almost certainly will. People have like at least that kind of awareness, even in the low ranks, right? The problem becomes who he ults and when he does it. And that kind of determines whether or not this Mo and Krill will tilt and start flaming his team. But generally speaking, it's not that common. Honestly, yeah, there's not much else to say about him. Paige. Now, I'm kind of debating on whether to put her here or here. She's like on the borderline of this. Like, Paige players are very, you know, supportive and helpful. I mean, it makes sense. She is the support character. They're also the most defensive players. Like, you criticize anything they do, or you criticize a shitty call they make, and they will dogpile on you. They will flame the shit out of you. The most pleasant experiences you'll have with Paige is a Paige that will actively try to communicate with you. Like, oh, I'm going to shield you, go in, and stuff like that. So I'm going to put her here. Just because a lot of Paige players I've encountered lately have been very vocal about the shots they make, proactively supporting their teammates, and enjoying doing so. So yeah, I'll put Paige here. I still think Holiday mains are a bit chiller, more chill than Paige, but you know, she belongs here, I feel like. Paradox. Honestly, Paradox players are the most whimsical. They're trying to make plays or just have fun because they saw the glass head, the cool looking Daft Punk looking character with thick thighs, and thought, yes. So I'm gonna put Paradox here. They're just vibing. They're just vibing. Pocket. Now there are a few heroes whose players I think just rarely type or communicate at all, and Pocket is one of them, along with Mirage. So I think Pocket goes here. I think Pocket players are too busy sweating on their keyboards. Oh, I gotta time this spell, you know, do the cloak trick thing. I don't know what it's called, okay? I don't give a shit. I don't play Pocket. Or like, oh, I gotta manage my actives and do all this and do all that. Pocket players are like, I want to say they're like the Zato players. If you play Strive, you know Zato? Yeah, just like constantly sweating, thinking, calculating all this shit. They're too busy doing that. And I mean, to be fair, Pocket is quite mechanically demanding. I feel like Pocket's probably like the fourth most difficult character to play, tied with Viscous, which we'll get to later. Now, Rem. honestly, in this patch, if I see a rem anywhere, I'm just gonna assume you're trolling. Because rem is so dookie this patch. Rem is borderline useless. Rem is so shit. I pray to God the enemy team sucks whenever I get a rem on my team. Because I know this rem just ain't gonna take the game seriously. Also, there's a lot of overlap between rem players and Yuumi players from League. So however toxic you think Yuumi players are, rem is about the same, I think. So I'm gonna put rem... No, I think here's good. I think rem players are slightly less toxic, because I don't think they give a fuck. Very much like the other characters in this tier, they're just vibing. They also like to roleplay and chat. Oh, look at me, I'm sleepy. Haha. So yeah, a 7. Oh boy, I've been I've low-key been waiting for this. Oh, 7. The question becomes, are 7 players more toxic or less toxic than Haze? Because, oh man, I will say this. Before recently, there was a time when 7 players were quite chill. 7 is such a forgiving hero. You can do really bad in the early game, but with enough patience, and with the enemy team inevitably screwing up at some point, 7 capitalizes on that. He scales really well into the late game. No matter how weak he is. That's just how 7 is. But oh man, the most rage quits I've ever had in my entire fucking Deadlock career it's gotta be the 7. No, honestly, no, 7 is the king of toxicity, more than Haze. Simply because 7 players are the most likely to rage quit, in my opinion. Haze players don't rage quit. They just do bad, they tilt, sure, they type shit. But 7 players, oh, they're a different breed. Also, the most racial slurs I've ever heard in my entire career of Deadlock came from 7. Either 7 or bebop. Racial, transphobic, all kinds of slurs. 7, bebop, doorman, and another one that we'll get to later on as well. But yes, 7 is the undisputed king of toxicity. Congratulations. You know that meme where that one 7 player asks the Haze what her ethnicity is so he can call her the appropriate slur? Yeah, typically 7 players don't do that. That was a very tame example. 7 players, they just dive right into it. They just start flipping through their slur vocabulary book, their list of slurs that they've put in their phone, and they go, oh yeah, you're a... Shiv players, when they're on your team, I noticed they're the most likely to roam. They're the most likely to actually help other lanes, aside from Lash, of course. So I'm gonna put them here. They will help the team, but there comes a time when you're gonna meet a very tilted Shiv player, and it's just not a fun time for anyone involved, especially the Shiv, who is miserable and 08 and does no damage with his knives. Which, like, how do you do no damage with his knives and dash? Are you missing all of them? Hello? Are you stupid? Silver goes here. Honestly, there's not much for me to say about Silver. There was a time when Silver was super overpowered and everyone started getting inflated egos, rubbing it in. Oh, they think they're better than everyone because they're playing the most broken hero in the game. But lately, while Silver is still very strong, I feel like a lot of Silvers have just quieted down a bit. So I think here's a good placement for her. Sinclair. I honestly wish I could say more, but Sinclair mains are so rare. I can tell you this, though. There wasn't a time where I've met like a really toxic Sinclair or a really chill Sinclair. A lot of Sinclairs fall like somewhere in between. So I do think they belong like right here. Right here. They're playing the hardest character in the game. But at the same time, they're doing a lot of whimsical stuff with it. They're just fucking around at this point. Especially now since Sinclair is so weak. He's been nerfed to shit. Venator. Ooh. I could put Venator here. Venator is, you know, the gun character. The M1 carry. But ever since Venator's been nerfed to shit, a lot of the sweaty motherfuckers, the sweaty miserable motherfuckers have moved to other characters. At this point, if you're playing Venator, you're just playing because you like the guy. Like, you really like the guy. Like, you don't mind that this guy is just a shell of his former self. Kind of deal. You're just playing to have fun at this point. So I'm moving him, like, tiers down to here. He could have been here or maybe even here. But nah, I feel like this is good. Victor! Victor. When things go his way, generally speaking, Victor players are in a good mood. You know, they're carrying the game casually with this broken-ass character, with OP scaling, unlimited healing, just super tanky, and a shit ton of damage for whatever reason. So yeah, they go here. But when things don't go their way, oh man, they will make it known in the chat. So I think here's the appropriate ranking for Victors. Also, they tend to BM a lot. Whether they're winning or losing, it doesn't matter. I don't know what's the problem with you Victor players, you miserable fucks. Just calm the fuck down, okay? Honestly, I could just put Victor players in here. It just really depends at this point. It really is just a matter of how strong Victor is in the current meta. So I think for now, I'll just put him here. Vindicta. Vindicta, I feel like she just goes around here. Honestly, it's rare that you encounter a super duper toxic Vindicta or a super duper chill Vindicta. I think here's probably here. Yeah, Vindicta players, you know, they're just chilling in their lane. Very complacent because they're playing like one of the best laners in the game. But the problem becomes afterwards, like how well they do or how well the team does, and whether or not the Vindicta gets frustrated, because there's a bit of fall off that happens afterwards. But generally speaking, I feel like Vindicta players are kind of just whatever. I feel like they go here. Viscous. Now, conceptually, you know, Viscous, you know, this little goober here supporting his teammates, attracts very nice players who just want to enjoy the game, right? Right? Wrong. From my subjective experience, when things don't go their way, oh, they are unbelievably salty. It's like watching a Smash player throw their controller. Like that is the level of salt I witness every time I see a Viscous in either my team or the enemy team. For some reason, maybe this is just me. This is probably one of the hotter takes in this video. A lot of you will probably put Viscous around here or here, but my experience with Viscous has been like here. I don't know what it is about the Viscous players I've run into, but Vyper, on the other hand, surprisingly enough, Vyper players, they're kind of on the same breed with Abrams. They're dumb as shit, just like the character herself. So I'm gonna put Vyper here. You're either gonna have like the greatest movement god Vyper on your team, or the one that goes O10 and proceeds to run it down blue lane. So I feel like here's a good place to put Vyper here. Warden. Okay, I mean, just look at him. First of all, just look at him. He looks like Chat Thundercock. What do you expect? Where do you think he's gonna go? You know earlier how I was talking about the heroes whose mains like say slurs a lot? 7, bebop, doorman. Well, Warden's the 4th one, alright? Warden players, Warden, Haze, pre-nerf Venator, they think it's COD. Wraith. Wraith players are very cocky. They're playing a brain-dead character, but unlike the Lady Geist, they kind of don't realize just how easy their character is. They're a bit full of themselves. So I think Wraith players go here. No offense to the chill Wraith players who probably exist somewhere, but my experience with Wraith players in general have typically been less than pleasant. Yamato. These players are probably the most quiet motherfuckers ever. They don't type shit. They rarely ever type shit. They're just trying to roleplay as Virgil or some shit. I don't think she belongs anywhere except meh. They could be in the alright section, but again, the thing is, Yamato players are either typically silent or just a little bit egotistical. So I put them here. And yeah, that is my Deadlock Toxicity tier list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. If this got your little noggin jogging, got a little discussion going within your head or within your friends or within the comment section, please feel free to give me a like and or subscribe and a follow on Twitch, even though I'm considering leaving that shitty platform. But other than that, yeah, that's it. Take care. Peace.